We're going to start with a determination of quorum. Russell Byerly, Chair. Take another one.
Hello. Oh, there we are. Christy Evans, Vice Chair.
Shotzi Gambrell at large.
Brandy Wilbur at large.
And I'd also like to invite our newest CAB member, Carl Kopek, to take a seat with us up here on the board. Congratulations, Carl. And go ahead and let us know on the mic if you're here or not.
President accounted for.
Wonderful. Also joining us is Candy Ramos from the Washoe County Manager's Office. We have never seen her in person in this room before. This is a rare treat, but she's appeared on this screen many, many times to do the business of the people. Welcome, Candy. Next, I would like a volunteer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Who would like this rare and elusive honor? Fantastic.
For which it stands, one nation, with liberty and justice for some.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to open the floor to general public comment here in chambers. And comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the agenda. Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian Wadsworth, and I am the Democratic candidate for Washoe County Commissioner for District 5. And I just wanted to announce, and thank you for having me here this evening. I just wanted to announce that I'll be hosting a town hall here at Bruno's on Saturday, February 28th from 2 to 4. I have some flyers here, but it'll be great. It'll be a great opportunity for me to get to meet everybody, and I want to hear what issues are going out here in Gerlach, and then if elected as your Washoe County Commissioner, how we can all work together and collaborate together to make a better place for the community of Gerlach and for Washoe County as a whole. So thank you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Could you repeat the date and time, please?
Yes, it's going to be Saturday, February 28th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Bruno's out here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other general public comment in chambers? Seeing none, do we have any hands online? And moving right along to the approval of the minutes of January 8th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion we approve the minutes for the meeting of January 9?
January 8th.
January 8th.
Let go of the mic. Quit touching it. It doesn't like it.
Christy Evans, I second.
Is there any public comment on the approval of the minutes of January 8th? No, seeing none. Any online? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Shotzi, you can hear us, right?
Yes, I've got you.
Okay. We have someone in the comments who says they are not getting audio. We have other people online who are getting audio. The problem may be on your end.
Now I don't.
You stopped? Can you hear me now? Okay. Let's pause the meeting for a minute while I fix the audio.
All righty then.
Oh, you heard that?
Weirdly, it's like it's coming and going.
I would like to take this moment to say that Candy, if the county wanted to give us a better audio system.
Well, it's getting to the mixer, so I don't know what's happening after that. Okay, well, let's continue as if they can hear us. Next, we have public safety updates. Who would like to go first? We have representatives from Washoe County Sheriffs and Royal Ambulance and Candy. Can I include Gerlach volunteers on this item? Okay, fantastic. So first one of the mic gets to get out of here after.
Good evening, Deputy Cruz, Washoe County Sheriff's Office. Recent calls for service that we've had include broken down vehicles out in the sticks and people wandering around, but generally things have been under control around here. As always, I'll take questions.
Do we have questions from the board? No, no, no.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Great, short and sweet. Thank you very much. And then next we have, I think, John Ray's online.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry I'm not up there with you in person. Got to be up in Gerlach last week, and unfortunately, I was 1 week too early. Been a pretty solid year for Royal up in Gerlach. 10 incidents so far, resulting in 5 treatment release and 5 ground ambulance transports, including one today. Things have been running smoothly, fully in service and staffed 100% of the time. Ambulance wise, we have a revised ambulance for Gerlach that is Royal owned that will be going up to Gerlach full time, likely in the next couple of weeks. It just got painted yesterday, says Gerlach EMS Royal Ambulance on it, and is going to get a few more modifications and then has to get inspected by the state to get on our permit. And we anticipate it being up in Gerlach in the next few weeks. And that ambulance will then become the primary ambulance that will be operating out of. We're doing a training day for all of our EMS staff, so 3 EMTs and 3 medics, and also certainly glad to invite the Gerlach volunteers to that as well. And that'll be on Wednesday, March 25th. So hoping to have a great day of internal training for our folks on EMS stuff as well. Other than that, things have been going smoothly and nothing additional to report on my end. But glad to take any questions.
Yes, you said that was Wednesday, March 25th. Is there a time for that?
It's going to be an all-day affair. It's probably going to start at around 9 a.m. and go until at least 5.
Okay, fantastic. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay. Questions from the public for Royal? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greg, do you have updates from the volunteers?
Well, just about the most exciting and wonderful update I could imagine. We are officially in business. We are signed off by Truckee Meadows. And yeah, thank you all. We are really happy to have this, like, the fact that I might be called to go and run something is far, far less stressful than the fact or the possibility that we wouldn't be. And so to be able to run on things, cut cars apart with our friends in blue, or go find cars with our friends in green, it's just wonderful. And we look forward to pushing our recruitment ideas, working with the community to help with fire safety, and just really anything else we could do. So if you have ideas about what the fire department can do for you, you can talk to Russell, you can talk to me, but man, this is just wonderful. So if you have any questions about the great bright future, I'd be glad to answer them if I can.
Do we have questions from the board? Christy?
Is this working? Oh, there we go. Christy Evans. So couple questions. So what does this mean you can respond to, fires and other things? And then my second question is, how are we doing on volunteers in the department?
Sure. I expect that I forgot to state my name, and my name is Greg Nielsen, so I'll put that back at the beginning. Russell and I are certified to firefighter 2, so we can lead a scene where we're putting out fire up until Truckee Meadows shows up. They're going to automatically dispatch for us. They're going to ask for pyramid to come up if there's a fire. So we're gonna, make happen what we can. There's two of us now. We have a bunch of people in the community who are at various stages of signing on through a very well thought out program from Truckee Meadows. You do some work, you get signed off on something. You do some more work, you get signed off again. I know we have one person who has all of the stuff done. I know we have some others who are more than halfway through it. And the stuff is just fundamental, like how to go to wildland fires safely, how to understand the command system when someone shows up and says, "I'm in charge." You find one boss and you work for them, that type of stuff. So we don't know the timeline for bringing anyone up, but the volunteers around here are really putting in the effort to get there. And I'm sure we'll celebrate each of them as they come through each step of the way and bring this news to the CAB meetings and let you know how many people are on. When we're at 2 people, we are a little limited to the types of things that we can do. Like going inside a building to put out a room and contents fire is really not what we should be doing. If there's a child in the home banging on a window, we're going in no matter what they say. But and I mean that's in the rules. So we can respond to stuff. We can cut cars apart. We can spray fire on the outside and protect neighbors' homes. We aren't necessarily going to be able to go in and save half a house, but being able to save the neighbor's house and being able to cut up cars is huge. That's been my biggest worry, is that the Royal Ambulance people would be stuck outside of a car. No one certified to chop it up with the jaws. So we're in business for that one.
I thought of another question. And if this is too much to explain here, feel free to say so. But so since we are a volunteer fire department, what does that mean when there's calls for service? Not necessarily in the town of Gerlach. I don't know, there's a brush fire somewhere and like are we called to respond, but we're not as obligated as a fully staffed station? Just curious how that works.
Sure. Yeah, that's a pretty simple question. Because we're volunteers, I'm not obligated to put out my neighbor's house, even though it's going to burn mine down if I don't. We show up if we can. We have a ethical duty here, much more than any obligations on paper that we must show up for so many calls. We respond to fires from here to Oregon, from here to California, and halfway to Nixon. We try not, I mean, it would be a shame to be 50 miles north when someone falls off a ladder, but we'll just run stuff. We'll get a sight on it. The big thing is that when there's like a national or a statewide size fire, we're not going to be stuck there fighting fire for 14 days. We're going to make some observations, call in some reports, weather, temperature, those kind of things. And then when there's 20 people here and 0 people in Gerlach, we're going to make it 18 people there and Russell and I back in town.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the board? Questions from the public? Thank you very much, Greg. Let me ask you a question. Are there still people complaining about the audio?
There was
I'm not having any problems.
There was one person that complained about the audio. Pete Dronkers.
Okay, so is he still having
Oh.
issues?
He says good now.
Okay, great.
Great. So we're good.
All right. I can think of one more thing to try if it stops working again. Okay, moving on. We have Gabrielle Enfield from the Community Reinvestment Department of Washoe County to give us an update about the Washoe Art Trail.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening to give you a little update on where we're at with the art trail. I'm going to give you a really brief background because I know many of you have been involved in a lot of the art trail work and throughout the many months and years that we've been working on this. So just as a really quick background for the art trail, it's a public participatory experience, a route really running throughout Washoe County. And it includes 2 new public artworks, one at Crystal Peak Park that is completed at our western edge of Washoe County. The other art installment and trailhead is to be located in Gerlach at our northernmost community. And then along the route, there's more than 25 existing historic, cultural, and artistic sites throughout the route. We had sought to find a location for the Gerlach art years ago. We were working on it up into the pandemic. The pandemic came and things pretty much stopped. We've reinvigorated that effort, and through a few other efforts that have gone on in the community, the property owned by the GGID has been identified. That property is located at the eastern entrance of the community and is adjacent to 447. It's been discussed as a park for recreational area, as part of our Gerlach 3D tourism development project, as well as the Gerlach Trail planning project. That parcel is 38.6 acres. So I've been working with the Gerlach GID and discussing possible partnerships with Washoe County in order to utilize a portion of that property to place a new piece of art, signage, and parking. The GID had asked for a community meeting to discuss the possibility of using this property for that use. And that community meeting was held October 29th. I'm going to go over some of the results of that meeting and then talk to you about what next steps we're moving forward with. So I wanted to really give the community an opportunity to have their opinions heard. Specifically, I wanted to understand if there was opposition to what we're calling the Gateway property as an art trail new public art site. We had a lot of input. We had more than 22 people that attended. So it was really great turnout. About 18 people signed in. We got a lot of input. I didn't really see a specific opposition to the Gateway property, but uncertainty due to unanswered questions. Also, and there was enthusiasm for the possibility of developing the property. And then another component of that meeting was to ask the community if the Gateway property is not possible for that purpose, was there support for funding the restoration of the water tower and designation of the art trailhead there at the water tower site. So the input and questions was broad support for completion of the water tower. Everybody wants that water tower restoration completed. However, there were a lot of cons, because we did pros and cons. There were a lot of cons noted. If we were to designate the water tower as the art trailhead, related to the size of the property, parking, and inability to add new art there. So in general, the input identified that there are many unknowns regarding the Gateway property. Cultural artifacts need to be preserved. Like, where are they? How do we ensure they're not destroyed? Also, a lot of comments about that much of the property is wet playa. Is there adequate area for a parking lot? It's really a lot of questions that needed to be answered. The size and the scope of the portion of the property to be used for the new public art and signage is unknown at this time. And what will the maintenance be and who's responsible for what? So following that community meeting, I met with the Gerlach GID on November 7th and recommended that, provided them with the summary that I just went over, and asked them, one, do they support us moving forward, like taking more efforts to see if the Gateway property is going to be feasible for Art Trailhead. And there was a lot of discussion. They did support my recommendation for Washoe County to hire an engineering company to provide a preliminary assessment of the property regarding the area needed and the location for development, to include approximately 20 car parking lot, space for a new piece of art, interpretive signage, and then entrance and exit from the property. So really figuring out all those unknowns, with the caveat that no land would be disturbed as part of the assessment or feasibility study, and that the GID trustees would be provided summary results at least a week in advance of the GID meeting that came following. There are still questions, and this is something we need to work out, is the maintenance needs and planning must be addressed before the GID enters into an agreement with Washoe County. And then it was also brought up that problems related to visitors during the Burning Man time must be addressed. So those are two things that we also need to work on. They're a little bit separate from the feasibility study for the property. With the support of the GID let's go ahead and look at what's feasible on that property. And with Washoe County paying for a feasibility study, let's move forward with that. So I was out for more than a couple months. I had knee surgery like the day after I met with the GID. So far, we have talked to Wood Rogers, an engineering and design company. We provided them with information on what we need. They have provided us with a proposal for a feasibility study for what I just described. So they'll be starting next week on a feasibility study that'll include some preliminary planning and engineering, preliminary environmental review, with the idea that we don't have to have a full scope of environmental review for this project in order to put the art with the funding that I have available through the recovery funding. However, we do anticipate that if the GID wants to make this a park and we do this permit phase 1, we may want to go and seek federal funds, which would involve us needing to do an environmental review. Also, doing the preliminary preliminary environmental review as part of this feasibility study will ensure that we're not disturbing that parking lot, or putting a piece of art is not going to disturb historical or cultural assets that are on that property. So what they're going to be looking at is really doing an analysis to develop approximately 1 to 2 acres of that parcel. It's 38.6 acres, but a lot of it is playa, near State Route 447, so that you can have an entrance and exit area. Generally for identifying the location for that with signage, an art installation, other amenities as directed, and then future space for the Gerlach trailhead and trail connectivity, which is anticipated as a later phase project. They'll also, in addition to the preliminary environmental review, they'll be doing preliminary geotechnical review, and then also included in that scope of work is meetings and coordination, so that they will be developing some drawings for us and some scenarios. They will develop at least 2 scenarios for the property. And then we can bring those to the GID or to a community meeting and get input on those. And then once, if it's feasible and one of those 2 scenarios is chosen, they will then be able to provide us with a ballpark cost of the concepts, so that we can get an idea of what it would cost to complete that phase 1 that we're talking about. I went through that really fast. That's basically where we're at right now. They are going to start next week. They anticipate 10 weeks. I'm to work through all of this. I'm given a nice buffer. I'm figuring 3 months, so March, April, and May. Planning to return back to the GID at their June meeting. And depending on when we get the drawings and get those scenarios, we may have time for a community meeting. It would be ideal if we have time for a community meeting before we meet with the GGID. That's all I have as far as background and kind of where we're at right now, but I'm absolutely happy to answer any of your questions.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much for all the work you've done on this. My only question is, I know this is funded through a variety of grants. This some is NEA funding and some is coming from other pots. Is there any kind of timeline by which we need to wrap this up in order to not leave that money on the table?
Yes. So what we're this phase for the parking lot and the art, they will be funded through our arts and culture project that is state and local fiscal recovery funds, and we must have them spent by the end of December. So we will have it's not a huge project, so it's not a huge construction. Parking lot and pad and placing art by December. It's doable, but we will be moving fast.
A little follow-up question. If they do find some wealth of historic artifacts there and we have to find a new site, is there time to go back to the drawing board, or would you have to repurpose those funds to some other project?
We could repurpose to another project. I don't know that we've looked for years for another site in Gerlach. So this was really our last. We haven't had other sites that have been fruitful. We have been looking. So at this point, we don't have any other potential sites that are on our radar. I don't know if there were a site that came available. It's possible, depending on the site and what needed to be done for that site. Parallel to this project, I'm going to start working to identify possible art to go on the site. So that'll be kind of a parallel process. So I'm hoping that art gets placed here in Gerlach. And that some options can be provided and the community can choose a piece of art for your gateway property. It's unlikely we'd be able to put it at another site, but if there was another site, I'm not aware of it.
And you just mentioned that the actual art to be placed there is a separate project that you're developing in parallel. But we are anticipating having public feedback before an art installation is chosen. That's still the plan.
Yes, absolutely. It's not necessarily a separate project, but it's a separate component of this project that I'll be working in parallel to the work that the engineers are doing to do the feasibility study. So I'm not going to wait. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not going to wait till June to start looking to see if there's art that the component of what art can we put there. I'm going to start it on that at the same time that these guys are doing their engineering.
Great. Well, I'd like to cast my vote now for a life-size inhabitable sandcastle. Are there questions or comments from the rest of the board? Christy?
Gabby, thank you so much. Christy Evans, thank you so much for giving us this update. I know this project has been talked about for a very long time, so it's very exciting to see some forward motion. In the spirit of what Russ asked and what you mentioned about the funding and the need to, make a decision so we can utilize it. If I understand correctly, since the property is owned by the GID, ultimately it's the GID Board of Trustees that would need to sign off on the property usage for this, correct?
Correct. The way that, and we've done a lot of work to figure out, how that could happen. I hired Nevada Land Trust. They looked at, can the GID set aside that property in a trust as in order for Washoe County to be able to do some development on that property. So that was a whole process and really looking at the legality of that. And absolutely they can. It's going to cost about $100,000 in legal work to do that. However, meanwhile, I identified an old agreement between Washoe County and the GID that is basically just an interlocal agreement, a much quicker and straightforward way for us to accomplish this. What happened, it was the park that's outside of where you're sitting right now in the community center. I think it was 1995 or 1998. Washoe County came in, put in playground equipment, but it was remained Gerlach's park and Gerlach for maintenance. So it would be a very similar agreement, and allowing Washoe County to come in and do the development, which is the parking lot, placing a piece of art, and the entrance. And that would be an agreement between Washoe County and the GGID. So yes, the trustees of the GID need to approve this agreement with Washoe County and approve this use for the portion of the property. And that's why, it's a large property, and we certainly don't need to identify acres and acres of it for this purpose. So I've asked the engineers to, look at 1 or 2 acres. What do we need to be able to accomplish just this portion? And then the interlocal agreement would be restricted to that portion and that use and that development. So maintaining that the GID has control.
Gotcha. And so tell me if I'm correct in this, that we're hoping to get to the point where the engineering firm is going to do their study. They're going to come back with a couple of options. And if there's a community meeting for input and all that, great. But ultimately, we are really actually going to now have a couple options to choose from to really kind of say, do you want to do A or B, yes or no? And then at that point, we can execute on something. When would that decision, do you think, need to be made by, so that there is enough time to complete the work should they say yes?
So my timeline is, I'm hoping to have that taken the scenarios at the June meeting, and then the interlocal agreement, if possible. And it depends on how soon I actually get scenarios, because some of this might happen sooner, but I like to be more conservative and expect later. So I would expect to take the scenarios to the community and the GID early June, that June 4th meeting, and then come back at their July meeting. At the July meeting for the approval of the interlocal agreement. And then between June and July, we'd be working on RFPs and things to release so that we can get construction started at that point.
Gotcha. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Knowing this community, obviously any amount of time that people have to look at the options in advance, just might help people get some thoughts and ideas and consideration under consideration before we, get too close to the deadline.
Yeah, they should, they expect to have final drawings and ballpark estimates for those scenarios April 20th. That week of April 20th. So what would happen is I'd like to set up a meeting, a community meeting in May. We can also post the drawings and the markups to a website on a web page on Washoe County, so that people could look at it and talk about it and think about it. And then the GID would have plenty of time to consider.
Just in time for Earth Day.
That would be great.
Carl?
Yes. I'd like to propose if for some reason this is not feasible for whatever reason, there is the water tower park and potentially putting yard art, as it were, in that park. And Russell has explored the possibility of getting an engineering firm out here just to determine the scope of work, what that water tower needs, because that is a ongoing what does it need issue in terms of actual engineering. And if an engineering firm is coming out here, could they be engaged to perform that assessment? And if in fact there's some funds available that need to be spent, could those funds possibly, or if there's a pool of them, be designated to preserve that cultural artifact? Question. In so many words.
I'm very supportive of preserving the tower. Washoe County, we've provided some funding early on for some of the engineering work that was done. Absolutely. I think I would love to provide more funding to the water tower. At this point, the priority for the funding, the SLIFRA funding, is to get the new art placed, and that's going to be a rather large project. I'm not sure if we have enough funding, but we will know as we get closer. We absolutely have to spend this award, but there are other components to the arts and culture project. So we're also going to be doing murals at Washoe County buildings and utility box murals, which we will have some in Gerlach. So I absolutely hear you about getting the tower completed, and I'm here to help with that and to support it. And potentially identify some funding, whether it's this funding or not. It may not necessarily be this funding. I've in the past, we've used community support. And your other question regarding the engineering company that's coming out, that's something that maybe Russell and I can talk about offline, if that's something he's already planning to do, to have another engineering report or whatever kind of assessment that needs to be done. We chose Wood Rogers. They're really familiar with the community. They've worked here before. They will be coming up on site to review the property. They're not going to disturb anything, but they will be coming up to the site. So that's possibly something that we can talk about.
Thank you.
Any more questions from board members online? No? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, do we have anyone online, Candy? Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Gabby. I hope to hear from you soon.
Great.
Next, we have a presentation from Fire Adapted Nevada from the Nevada Division of Forestry and Truckee Meadows Fire Prevention District.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Nevels, and I'm the Fire Adapted Nevada Coordinator for Nevada Division of Forestry. And I'm a forester, and I'm also a wildfire mitigation specialist and a building inspector. And this is my partner.
She has way more accolades than me. So my name is Brett Taylor. I work for Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. I'm the WU Community Coordinator. Haven't seen me up here yet because Truckee Meadows has traditionally been south of Township 22. So I think there's a couple projects that we're going to talk about that is bringing Truckee Meadows District up towards you. Part of that being the volunteers program is getting offering you guys a little more help. And then the CWPP, which we'll talk about, is the other thing that probably I'll be around town more, and also some other services that we'll talk about that I offer through my position at Truckee Meadows.
So Fire Adapted Nevada is a multi-agency collaboration. It's with Living with Fire through the University of Nevada Extension, obviously the state of Nevada, Nevada Division of Forestry, BLM, which is still the BLM right now, and the U.S. Forest Service. So again, like I said, it's a multi-agent partnership, but it's not just those four. We also work with all of our fire districts, our volunteer fire departments, emergency managers, and all of our counties. Our whole goal is to create fire adapted communities. So here's to my favorite people. So there's a big difference between prevention and preparedness. So I like to use Smokey and the Lorax because people relate to that. So Smokey's always said prevention, prevention, prevention. Only you can prevent. Where the Lorax has the same message as preparedness, but they work together. So these two are the picture of fire adaptation. I'll make this quick. So what we've done in the past, since we all grew up with Smokey, is in the last 80 years, it's always prevent, prevent, prevent. What we've created is what's called the Smokey Bear effect. So we've done so much in prevention, we've lost sight of what the real goal is. So we've actually created so much overgrowth, as you've seen in all these catastrophic wildfires. This is what's causing that, is we're not taking into consideration thinning, traditional ecological knowledge, control burns. And that leads back to our homes as well with defensible space, because a lot of these communities like, oh, I need trees, I need all this vegetation, I want this beautiful home and these English gardens, but that's created the same effect near our homes. And so what we need is stewardship, restoration projects, and shared responsibility. And again, Smokey reminds us to prevent disaster. The Lorax reminds us to care for that landscape before it reaches that point of, catastrophes. Healthy forest needs space, and so does your home. So again, risk versus threat. This is going to come up a lot, and it's going to come up in your CWPP, and Brett will talk to that. But the risk is what can burn, what can you lose, what is important to you, your infrastructure, your homes, your hospitals, your buildings. But it's also going to be, it's also going to be, you're not going to have water, you're not going to have power. One of the biggest questions I get is, what's taken so long in these restoration projects in these towns? Why isn't Lahaina rebuilt? And why isn't, Paradise rebuilt? Because they don't have the infrastructure. Their infrastructure burned, their water burned, their pipes burned, their electricity, and all that now has created even a bigger disaster to even clean up before they can start to rebuild. So that's something you need to think about. And Brett will talk to you about that in your CWPP. The threat is how likely is a fire to start. They're not the same things. So what is your threat? Is it lightning? Is it, the OHVs? Is it the recreation out here? Is it Burning Man? Most people think the playa won't burn, but it's windy out there and a spark's all it takes. Go ahead. You can go to the next one. So reasons for extreme wildfire and why we're getting these catastrophic wildfires is higher temperatures in Nevada. We're like right now, we're having spring, and it's going to lead to a hotter and drier summer, record high winter precipitation, but we're not getting that. So it's actually creating the opposite effect, and we're going to have a prolonged drought. Fire season now averages more than 105 days in Nevada. And we have such low relative humidity, it averages about 1%. We have those zephyr winds, as you know, it's always windy in Nevada. And development into the wildland urban interface. You guys live in a wildland urban interface, and the development is just encroaching on that. It changes the whole dynamic of ecosystems and demographic. So what we've learned from all of that is most damage and loss is caused by the homes in the 0 to 5 foot zone. So that is from the roof out to 5 feet. That is where your home is most vulnerable. And that's where your defensible space comes in. So wildfire preparedness. Wildfire can grow at an acre a second. That's usually about the average, especially here. Wind-driven flames can move at 60 miles an hour, overtaking roads that look safe moments earlier, and you can get trapped. And that's why evacuation is really, really important as well, to be prepared to leave. And how are you going to leave? So this is the Collin Ranch fire that happened, if that will play. And I just want to show you with the winds and embers how fast that they move. So this was taken by, was that taken by Tricky? Anyway, I got it from you guys. And it's just showing them there's firefighters on the street right there. But it just shows how rapid those embers are burning, and they're just catching everything on fire. You don't have audio, but it's really, really, really windy. And then go ahead to the next one. Okay, so this video here is in Colorado, and this house is a mile away from the fire, and it's not in a WUI, a wildland urban interface. It's in your local, urban community, and residential stick-built house. That a spark from that fire, where you can see the smoke, landed in their front garden on the mulch and started a fire. As you can see, they're lucky enough to have the fire department right there to come and try to put this out, and they think they have it, and they don't. As you can see that they're trying to put it out, but this guy here's watering the deck. So they think they got it, and it starts to smoke, as you just see the little spark on the right. So here comes the firefighter with his water bottle. That makes me laugh every time I see this. And what you'll see is this spark went under that deck just from that mulch, and it's going to burn this house down. And this is on a Ring camera, so it's pretty much almost real time. And what happened is it went under that deck, and those columns are hollow, and it went up those columns, and you'll see that it'll light this house on fire. And this house was a loss. Where's my guy? There's my guy. And there it's up in the roof. And again, this is just to show you that what one spark with poor defensible space can do in a matter of minutes. And you'll see he'll come back and he'll hit that roof, and then it'll just ignite the house.
That's where the fire engine's sitting in the front yard.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you don't have that luxury.
Great point. Great points. This is why defensible space is so important. And again, they have 5 firefighters on this house. And there you go. And that's why we keep talking about defensible space. And I think most people forget that defensible space is not just the areas around, fire breaks in the road. And like I live too far away. That's what that guy thought. So this is a poor, example of defensible space. This is the mulch, and then they've got arborvitaes, which are just green gasoline. And what we would like to see a house in that 0 to 5 foot zone look like is where nothing can actually catch fire. And they also have brick. Go ahead to the next one. So we have some common myths. Again, I don't live in a WUI zone, and I don't live anywhere near where a fire can start. And my home has metal roof and steel beams, and that doesn't burn. Obviously that does. And that was taken down in Holbrook Junction. during that Tamarack fire. And my homes with sidings and metal roof are safe from wildfire. As you can see on the very left, there's a big kind of dent up on that eave right there, and ember got caught in there, and that house burned. Living on a golf course, my home is safe. The golf course is safe, but the homes obviously aren't. And this was down south in California. So, you know, defensible spaces everywhere. And this is Napa. And that was a big common myth down there is I don't have brush near my home and I don't live in a high fired hazard area. Same thing with that Colorado home. And look what happened here. The trees survived because they were green and wet. Yes. So what my position here in fire department is to not only educate you on defensible space, and defensible space meaning, will your home survive? I think that's a better phrase than defensible space because people have their own idea what that means. So coming at you with the fact was, will your home survive when a fire happens? And what does that look like? What do you need? I'm here to fill those gaps. Is it agency interface with partners? Is it funding? We have funding. Is it community outreach and education? It is to do defensible space inspections. What do you need from us to help make sure that you are survivable in a wildfire? And that's where we come in. We also, in supporting fire adapt communities, I am the state liaison for the NFPA's FireWise community. And that is a nationally recognized program where communities come together at a grassroots effort to create those fire adapted communities. And what that means is homes are doing the defensible space. You have community projects like your water tower. You don't want that to see that burn. So what can you do to keep your community safe? What that is takes 8 homes to make a fire adapted community. Those 8 homes we hope spreads to the whole community, and that certification that you get and that national recognition benefits you in insurance reduction for some insurance companies. It also for NDF, with our community assistance grants, those FireWise communities get preference in any grant application or any services that we offer, whether it would be a chipping day or something like that. So there are benefits to that. And what we really want to do is get those communities back together to create those fire adapted communities and continue that growth, because it's not a matter of when a fire is going to happen. I mean, if a fire is going to happen, it's going to be when. And fire behavior is changing. We can't even predict it anymore. And just what I talked about early with our climate's changing and our structures are changing in our whole landscape, it's gonna be catastrophic. That's what we're just seeing now. It's just not small ones. We're just seeing it grow. So the difference between a fire adapted community and a FireWise is that the fire adapted community is just a concept of that. You can be a fire adapted community without the recognition, but what FireWise USA does is formally recognizes that with those benefits. And that's what I have. So if there's any questions on how to do that, I am here to help you prepare those FireWise community applications and work with what it takes is, like I said, 8 homes, but it takes just somebody to create a board of at least 2 people that would take on the responsibility of reporting that. So now I'm going to turn it over to Brett, because what I also work with is creating those community wildfire protection plans and getting those core groups together. But Brett's in charge of that on the Washoe County side. So
I would say I'm in charge of it.
You are.
So the CWPPs, as they're affectionately called, these are big planning documents that they can be at multiple levels. It works. The acronym works always. It's a community wildfire protection plan is where it started, but it also works for a city wildfire protection plan. Reno just did theirs, or a county wildfire protection plan. That's what we're in with Washoe County right now, and we're actually, there's a lot of counties that are working through it. It's a document that's normally supposed to be updated every 5 years. Washoe County is about 15 years late. The last one they did was in 2005. So kind of why my position's here. And we're kind of just plugging through the process for that, getting help from the state and through some products that they have contracted through a larger group called Timmons Group. And basically it's making the CWPP process. Normally you're contracting it to a vendor for multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, which a lot of time the federal government would grant you, but we missed the boat on those grants. So instead we are working through that group, the Living with Fire, if you've heard of them. We're working through all the different core teams of NDF, like Reno Fire is involved with that because they're in Washoe County, Sparks Fire, Truckee Meadows, obviously, and then Washoe County unincorporated, or the north side of Washoe County is still part of that larger plan. And so we have a baseline of people working on this thing. The kind of the spot we're at in the process of building that plan is risk identification and the community assessments. That's a huge part of it. We can't really know what to mitigate if we don't know what the risks are or the state of of the county. Obviously, that's a massive assessment. That's why a lot of time people just decide to contract it. The tools that we have at our disposal right now, which is where you'll probably see me interfacing with the local the fire department, and probably just around the county in general, is something called the community assessment tool. That's a platform that NDF offers. It allows us to evaluate Gerlach and based on pretty standardized criteria that we know that are increase or lower fire risk, we can give your community a score. Probably going to be in the low to moderate range just because the state of Gerlach, but that assessment will then be built into that larger CWPP, that larger plan. And from that plan, it will identify the mitigation strategies. So if we see something in Gerlach that says home hardening would be important, we talked about it earlier, talking about the evacuation corridors, if we need to harden those, there's a lot of mitigation strategies that come out the other side. And that's why those plans have been in federal legislation for a long time. That's why they push them and why they're important for us to work on. So that's where you'll probably see me more. And I'll be reaching out to the people that I need to try to, we want it to not just be some overarching document that nobody reads. It's an important thing for the community to have at your disposal to know where your efforts can be put to best work. It's not just for the government to tell you what to do with your property. We don't want to do that. We want you to use it so it's a helpful tool for you to make your community less at less risk and more prepared for wildfire. We were talking about it earlier. It doesn't take some grass fire 10 miles away. That's probably not going to be your biggest risk. All it takes is a home fire that's on a windy day, and you've got enough older homes or wood-sided buildings that if one home catches and it starts to spread by embers, which you can defend against through things we just talked about, you can prevent that conflagration type fire that burned down Lahaina and burned down Pasadena. All those different fires that have happened spread the same way, and it's usually from one ember that gets established in one house, and then it spreads from house to house, especially when they're in close proximity to each other. So that's what we're really trying to fix. We look for the community for support in that long-term process to try to get people fire-wise and defensible. So that's my piece. Thank you.
One other note, what Van will also do, will come out and train the volunteer fire departments as well on how to do a defensible space inspection at no cost to you guys, to keep that up and doing it. And we do not share the information with the insurance companies. I just want to make that clear. This is all internal, and it's for us to help you help yourselves. So, any questions for us?
Yeah, several. First of all, how does one go about scheduling one of those trainings for defensible space inspections? Wonderful. Second question for Washoe County. Now that Washoe County is responsible for fire services in this area, I know there's some grants available for fuel mitigation, and in Gerlach, we're surrounded by land that isn't ours and we don't have any control over. There's a lot of federal land, there's BLM land, there's railroad land, and there's many tons of fuel on our town border here. And I know there are grants available for agencies like TM to come bring in fuel crews and clean that stuff up. Is that something we can work with you about arranging?
That's the other half of the job. Probably spend more than half of my time doing grant applications. And so, yeah, it's something we got to get ahead of and make sure that we, have enough time to produce a really cogent application, but absolutely just, I'll leave my card as well. And if I want it to be your idea, like, cause I don't, again, I don't want to come in and tell you like, you should do X, Y, Z. I want it to be the town's idea on it. Exactly. I hate that same. So, but yeah, if it's your idea and you have a good idea for a grant application, because there's some legwork that, you know, some folks here will help me with, but beyond that, then yeah, we're the receiver of the grant. The only thing I ask is that our fuels crews are the implementers. We want to keep them employed. Keeping them on staff with federal funds or grant funds is how we do that. So we're the wildland program, which is what I'm housed under, is 96% externally funded. We are actually cost neutral to the department. So that's what I need, is that they're doing the work and we're applying for the grant and, you know, just basically doing whatever we've outlined in that scope.
So your conditions are you must do the paperwork and also the manual labor. I consent.
With some help for you guys. So
Wonderful. That's all I had. Christy.
So, Christy Evans. So Russ brings up a good point, right? Like how does one defensible space around the town, and when the land around the town or that's bordering up in the town is not owned by the town or by individuals in the town, assuming we can get a grant and you have a crew to come out. I mean, this is not an abnormal thing where you have to say coordinate with the BLM or with the railroad. I mean, maybe that's its own special thing, but anyway, to do that work on land that we don't own.
Most of the time, to do work on federal land is something that it's a better relationship now, but a lot of time you got to wait for the BLM to just put that in their queue.
Right.
And depending on what level of risk they see you as is whether you'll get there or not. It's better now in that the BLM, because they don't have a workforce and they might not even be the BLM after this month, is they're happy to contract us and they're giving us more funding and allowance to work on their property. And so really our FMO right now that's his whole job, is just talking to the BLM on what projects they want to do. I know they've probably got some bigger fish to fry up by like Red Rock, and some of those properties are like really at risk, but no, that's something that if we identify in that community assessment that this is your biggest risk, this, you know, the land that's not yours. I'm sure there's stuff to do on your property, but if there's stuff to do on the adjacent property, then yeah, that's how we
Gotcha.
identify that and set it up for, you know, grant opportunities.
So in the course of what this entire process, or maybe, you know, with our volunteer fire department, for individuals in our community that would love someone to go to their house and say, here's your problems, here's some ideas. Is that a thing? That's the thing. Okay.
That's the other half of my job, is I drive around Truckee Meadows, South Township 22, and I just do defensible space inspections at no cost. So that's a, you know.
And if he can't, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do have a lot of information, just what we talked about and presented over here for you to take home. And again, when the federal, we're dealing with the feds, and, you know, they're on their own timeline. That's why we want to get in here with the individual homes. NDF has, well, there's 2 grants out now, one with the Northern Nevada Fire Chiefs to actually put money into the community to actually do defensible space. And we also have a grant through NDF to do the exact same thing. So whatever that is it, do you need it for the elderly people? Do you need a dumpster day? Do you need a junk the juniper day? What do you need? That's what that grant is for. It doesn't say it has to be this. So we'll take a look. Those are on both of our websites. It's on your website. It's on NDF anyway, but I'll give you my card and I'll give you the information for both of those grants.
Great.
I will tell you that there's Ready, Set, Go grant, which is under the International Association of Fire Chiefs. There's a grant out there right now up to $10,000 to apply for the same thing for communities. So, and you would put it for that one, for the volunteer fire, and I'll send you that too.
Great.
So there's also funding to help do evacuations, Jackson. So to help coordinate that with the fire district, we can come out and we offer services, and Ready, Set, Go will do that as well.
Great. I'm sure there are people in this community, myself included, that would love that. So thank you.
That's what
Carl.
Thanks for coming out. Appreciate the information. We're not completely asleep at the switch here, as our transfer station burn pile will attest. Every year it becomes mountainous. It's ready to burn now. Russell will, anyways, we haul weeds by we're on it because we've don't it's enlightened self-interest as I mentioned. It would also seem that the federal government is also somewhat on it because I see some gigantic earth moving equipment on the up at the station there, and there are some the 447 has weed cuts on the sides of the road. I'm not sure who's doing that, but somebody clearly is on an annual basis. And okay, so very good. Just wanted to identify who those parties were and the firefighting service, the national one, is clearly working these fires, and there was one just here on the horizon and dumping smoke into town last year before last. So we are in that interface zone and whatnot, which when that happens, the impetus to weed and clear Gerlach it becomes visceral, and everybody who's in that business starts working double time because the fires are coming. If the wind starts blowing hard enough, it will be here sooner than later. So. Right, we don't have that luck. That was fantasy land. We do not enjoy that level of staffing out here and never will. So getting on this whole matter proactively is absolutely a must. And I appreciate you coming out here and bringing some expertise to the situation. Thanks.
Shotzi or Brandy? No? Okay. Do we have questions or comments from the public? Seeing none. Anyone online? Well, thank you so much for coming out. Don't leave without giving me your card. You're going to hear from me. All right, moving on. We have our neighborhood development hub and other engagement opportunities from Candy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Candy Ramos, and I work for Washoe County. I'm going to share my screen so that you can learn about all of the great opportunities to become involved with the community and ways that you can help each other out as we have all of these great volunteer services here. So I am at washoecounty.gov. If you go to washoecounty.gov, in fact, I'm going to go to the homepage so we can get you there from the beginning. So this is the home screen of washoecounty.gov, and I want to lead you to a really important page that is super useful. It is the Your Government page, and then Get Involved. If you click on that page, you're going to find so many different things. One of which is the Connect with Your Commissioner. Of course, we have Commissioner Herman, who is joining us on the phone tonight. Here's her contact information. And then down here, as you scroll further down, you'll see different ways to get involved, including the CABs, the Citizens Advisory Board. So you can always click here and you go to Gerlach Empire and you can find upcoming dates. And it's always the second Thursday for the month for the CAB, as well as the agenda. But tonight I want to share with you about the Neighborhood Meeting Hub. We like to show you this each month if we have the time, because this is where people can engage with upcoming development projects or proposals that are coming up. As you'll see, there's two different ways to engage with this page. There's the polka dots. So this is an actual map, and if you scroll up here, you can see that there is nothing in the area. If you've heard about one by name, you can also do it. It's in alphabetical order over on the left-hand side. And then in the middle is where there's going to be upcoming projects, things like that. It does not look like we have much coming up in this area. We do have one that took place on the 28th of January and one that took place on the 29th about attainable housing for all districts. And if you clicked on those, you can learn more about those. But there's nothing that's coming up in the Gerlach area that will be of interest to you. However, this is a great page to visit because this is where you're going to find all of the upcoming items. Let me move this. Sorry. However, If you want to proactively sign up to receive emails about that, again, if you go back to the homepage for Washoe County and you scroll down a little bit, right on the homepage, you will see right here where it says sign up for email updates that interest you. If you visit this page, not only can you sign up to receive things, emails about citizen involvement or animal issues, Gerlach is in District 5. We always encourage people to sign up for their district list as well as the neighborhood developer meetings. So if you do sign up for these, those will come direct to your inbox so that you never miss an upcoming a developer meeting. But back to your government and the get involved. I also wanted to share with you the opportunity for Truckee Meadows Fire to get involved. So if you do go to Truckee Meadows Fire, volunteer. Even if you misspell it, I have a feeling it'll come up. Yep, Truckee Meadows Fire. Get involved. You can be 18 or over. You can sign up to apply to volunteer, and that will allow you to participate in your local volunteer fire community. I do believe we have added for each month, the Gerlach Volunteer Fire representative is going to be appearing on future agendas. So there are so many different ways for you to get involved as well. And then, of course, if you go back to your government, get involved, there are the different boards that you can apply for. So there are board volunteer opportunities, board and committee opportunities, all different ways for you to hopefully throw your hat in the ring if there's something that you'd like to be more involved with. So there's volunteer opportunities here. So lots of different ways. We hope that you will consider applying. We do have one item open right now. It's the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. It's primarily for folks who live closer to Lake Tahoe, but no one is prohibited. So please feel free to apply for that if you are so interested. Does anyone have any questions on these things?
Apparently not.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Candy. Next, we have a report on requests for service from previous CAB meetings. I don't have any reports to deliver this evening. However, Candy is still feverishly working on all the requests for service that we have submitted at previous meetings. So do not despair if you have a request still pending. We will eventually get answers. Next, we have CAB member and commissioner announcements and requests. And I'm going to try very hard to put Jeannie on the microphone here. Could you unlock your phone for me? No, you have to give me your password. It's the only way.
She might have had to drop.
Okay. All right. So Jeannie's no longer with us. Do we have any so to speak? Thank you. Do we have any CAB member announcements or requests? No? Jotzi has something. Jotzi?
Is that Candy in the room?
Candy is physically in the room and you're missing it.
I have a cold. This is not fair, Candy. Okay.
She actually
my only
called ahead to
request.
make sure you couldn't make it.
Haha. I request that Candy comes back again when I'm not sick.
I said the same thing, Shotzi. Of course, she came when we were sick.
Good God.
I would like to. I'd like to thank Candy for coming up and joining us, and everyone else in the audience, and who our special guests, Brian, who came and joined us, and wish him well in his candidacy, and everyone else who came to the meeting this evening. And I'd like to thank Commissioner Herman for appointing me to this auspicious body, and thanks to the rest of the board for their work here. Thanks to all. Good night.
Well, I have nothing to add. And without further ado, do we have any general public comment to close our meeting? Oh, seeing none. Do we have anybody online? Okay. No one online. In that case, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Well, Christy Evans, I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.